Hi, I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live, where you'll find us airing our views here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on Candid Frank Live, joining me is Aaron William Freeland. Hey, Aaron, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, Frank. How are you?
Not well. Let's just get this over with. I got to do this hour, and I got to take care of something. I think I just was scammed, and I just got a phone call and a second phone call. So somebody might have found something on me, and then somebody was trying to do business with me, and another person interrupted in between, and I just sent them um,
Hmm.
a credit card thing. Anyway, let's go talk about the CFL. Quarterback Kelly formally announces his withdrawal from Toronto Argonauts camp.
Yeah, so he released a statement a little earlier in the day saying that he had time to reflect on the report that had been released, and he said it didn't seem to reflect him as a person or reflect his values as a man. And he wanted to take the opportunity to work his way back into the CFL's and the Argonauts' good graces. Um, the 87-page report that was released did seem to corroborate at least half of the allegations made against him. So it seems like it's a bit of a long road back for Chad. We are hoping that he will be able to work himself back in based on the suspension that was issued by the CFL. It is for both preseason games as well as 9 regular season games with conditions attached, provided he completes the required sensitivity training and meets certain conditions and benchmarks.
Absolutely. CFL players can wear guardian caps during games, but mouth guards to become mandatory.
So they now have the option of wearing those big soft shell helmet covers known as guardian caps during games this season. Um, the mouth guards are going to be mandatory. I can appreciate and understand that. Now these two measures are amongst the host of health and safety initiatives designed to combat CTE and concussions and other injuries. They mandated the use of guardian caps last year during training camps and all contact practices during the regular season. Their use was required by all offensive and defensive linemen, running backs, and linebackers. And Wednesday, that was expanded to also include D-backs and receivers. Players who want to use the caps during games will be permitted, following a directive that was set forth last month by the NFL. According to the CFL, the introduction of guardian caps and other measures led to a 42% decrease in training camp concussions, which is a really good thing. But there will be no such choice regarding the use of mouth guards, which are now considered mandatory. This makes the CFL the first pro league in North America to mandate that. Violations aren't going to result in penalties being called during games, but they'll be deemed as dress code offenses by the league and subject to fines.
And here's what a guardian cap looks like.
Yep, they are the big fuzzy things that kind of look like mushrooms that add extra padding around the head.
Right. Just thought I'd throw that out there so you have an idea of what it looks like, folks. So that would be that. And let's see now. Let me get back my screen. How do I get my screen back? There we go. Got my screen back. All right. And let's talk about the Elks. They signed Americans Yabi Oki Anona and Tariq Stewart.
So that's defensive lineman Oki Anoma and offensive lineman Tariq Stewart. Oki Anoma appeared in 10 games for the University of North Carolina at Charlotte as a grad student in 2023. He's 6'5", and he earned All-American Athletic Conference second team honors after leading the team in tackles for loss and sacks. Stewart played at North Carolina A&T between 2021 and 2023, where he suited up in 29 career games for the Aggies. The Cleveland, Ohio native was also All-CAA second team in 2023 and All-Big South first team in 2022. This 6'6" linesman most recently attended New England Patriots rookie minicamp and participated in the 2024 HBCU Legacy Bowl back in February.
Lions signed running back Jordan Terrell, released defensive back Denzel Williams.
So this is a little bit of one, a little bit of the other. Terrell, who's 5'10", 210, suited up in 37 games at Barton from 2020 to 2023, racking up 5,487 yards and 44 touchdowns on 969 carries. Um, the Lions have announced that they released Denzel. No reason was given, but I'm guessing at this point in time, it's probably a question of A, fitness, and B, whether or not they can fit him under the cap.
Okay. And the Lions sign running back Jordan Terrell and release defensive back Denzel Williams.
Yep. And for those that are interested, when you're building out your fantasy pool here, he did rush for a school record 403 yards in a 2023 winner with Erskine. That total was 22 yards shy of the Division II single game record.
Okay. And sadly, not a friend. I can't claim he's a friend, but he is an acquaintance, somebody I had a chance to meet at various Grey Cup games and other situations where, the TSN, because they were so CFL centric, a lot of the on-air people would show up at a lot of the events that would take place in regards to the Canadian Football League. Had a chance to have a beer with him and a chat with him, and he passes away at the age of 57. His name is Darren Attishan.
Yeah, Darren revealed, or Dutchy, as he was more popularly known, revealed he had prostate cancer on September 9th, 2021, and spent a year away from TSN while receiving treatment. He returned to the screen alongside SportsCenter co-host Jennifer Hedger in September 2022, and said, a year ago I didn't know if I was coming back. That's when I was diagnosed with cancer. Started a whole arduous process. It's not the kind of cancer where you ring a bell. Unfortunately, he revealed in 2022 it was still in the base of his skull, his ribs, his legs, and his hips. At that point, the cancer was treatable, but unfortunately, it's one of those things that he just couldn't get away from. The cancer had unfortunately metastasized by that point. He did pass away, surrounded by family and friends at home peacefully. So that is there's something to be said for that. But for those of us who grew up watching one of those three-letter networks, he is going to be missed. He was always a very entertaining host.
Yeah, big man too. He was a real. By big though, I mean buff.
Yes,
very healthy guy, and that's just goes to show cancer can really do us all. And I really hate cancer anyway. MLS suspends Toronto FC coach. Players after chaotic brawl breaks out in loss to NYCFC.
So New York City Football Club held on late to grab a 3-2 win over Toronto at BMO on Saturday. However, after the end of the game, things got a little out of hand. It almost seemed a little bit like a playoff hockey style scrum. Shortly after NYCFC picked up the win, an altercation broke out between the two teams. It is unclear at this point what started the brawl specifically, but Toronto FC goalkeeper Sean Johnson was right in the middle of the scrum. He was seen going straight at Strahina Tanisiewicz multiple times. At one point, he charged at him and wrapped him up in the middle of the chaos. Things didn't end there either. Herdman bumped into NYCFC head coach Nick Cushing during the exchange, though they were separated. And after the game, Herdman alleged that Cushing had punched in the face one of his 19-year-old players at their last match in New York, which NYCFC also won 2-1. It was an off-the-record report that came into the dressing room at half when he said he got cornered and punched in the face. Cushing, of course, said, well, my guys would never do anything like that. They're upstanding young men and great citizens. And, Jonathan Osorio said it was the previous game's hostilities over the punch allegations that led to Saturday's incident boiling over. So once all the dust settles, we're going to go back in and take a look at this and see exactly what's going to happen with the rest of the team.
Tapani scores another OT winner. Boston sweeps Montreal in PWHL semifinal.
So this was rather unfortunate. I thought Montreal had played a great series. Boston swept Montreal in the best of 5, and they're going to be playing in the inaugural Walter Cup against either Minnesota or Toronto. Boston has won 5 consecutive games, while Montreal ended the season on a 4-game losing skid. But Marie-Philippe Poulin and Maureen Murphy scored for Montreal in regulation. Sophie Shirley and Amanda Pelkey also scored for Boston. And then Susanna Tapani scored her second overtime winner of the series. That was to help Boston advance. Tapani also helped win game 1 on Thursday when she pounced on a loose pocket blue paint following the first overtime goal in PWHL playoff history. So it looks to be setting up an interesting final for sure.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm dealing with.
It's okay, Frank. I get it. We're going to be moving on to Buterak's goal in the second overtime to give Minnesota a
There you
1-0
go.
win over Toronto to force game 5. Now she scored early in the second overtime in a scramble in front, as it happens. This was the 4th straight shutout in the series. But the first to go into overtime. The home team has won each game, and Game 5 is back in Toronto on Friday night. Toronto started with a 4-0 and a 2-0 overtime win. 2-0 regulation wins. Minnesota then came back to win Game 3, 2-0, and then this game in double overtime, 1-0, which sets up a winner-take-all scenario. Part of me is really hoping that Toronto manages to pull this out. Unfortunately, our number 1 goal scorer, Natalie Spooner, who's the league's leading goal scorer and scoring champion during the regular season, suffered a knee injury in the 3rd period in Game 3 when she got run and has been ruled out for the remainder of the playoffs. So even if the finals were to go 5 games, unfortunately, she won't be back.
Oh, it's too bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Oh boy. Okay, we're still with the Leafs.
Yeah.
Former Kings coach in line for Maple Leafs coaching vacancy.
So after being relieved of his duties on Groundhog Day in 2024, now there's rumors going around that Todd McLellan has been interviewed for the Toronto Maple Leafs head coach vacancy, and that occurred this past weekend. At the same time, Craig Berube was seen to have been in Toronto, again, supposedly for an interview as well. And the Maple Leafs, as everybody knows, cut ties with their former coach, Sheldon Keefe, this past Thursday after not having had a lot of playoff success. McLellan's been an NHL head coach for 16 years now and has made the playoffs in 9 of those 16 seasons. Unfortunately, as what happens with a lot of coaches, most notably John Tortorella, your message tends to go stale, and you do what happens is you lose the room. Same thing happened to Berube. Same thing happened to another rumored Leaf coach prospect, Gerard Gallant. Now, the Maple Leafs are expected to name their next head coach early next week. So after the Victoria Day long weekend, we should have a slightly better idea. McLellan, Berube, they're all still in the running for the job. So we'll have to see where it goes.
Yep. Maple Leafs obviously had some good signings last year. They want to repeat one, and that is with Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yeah. Now, from the start of the 2021 NHL season, Tyler Bertuzzi has kind of been inconsistent. The problem is that he hasn't been able to stay healthy for most of the season. Over a possible 220 regular season games since 2020-2021, Bertuzzi's only actually been able to play 127 games, both with the Red Wings and the Boston Bruins. Because of that, Bertuzzi wasn't offered a contract in last year's offseason, but he chose to sign a 1-year, $5.5 million show-me deal with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He finally managed to score 15 goals and get 22 points in his last 30 games. He was one of the bright spots for the Maple Leafs, along with Max Domi, when it came to the playoffs. So the Leafs are looking to potentially extend him, with Toronto once again having issues making a playoff run deeper than one round. You got to wonder, how much more rope are they going to be given here, and how long Shanahan is going to continue to last if this doesn't.
He's not. He's on death's door. If he's not on death's door, this team will never win a Stanley Cup.
No, we'll have to see about that. So far, he seems to have been bulletproof, which is really frustrating. The good news is, though, Bertuzzi, as a pending UFA, has the potential to do well for himself here.
If the Leafs do poorly next year, who else would pay for that? Is there another candidate? Because he's used up all the candidates in front of him. There's none left.
This is very true.
There's nobody.
Well, they can always get rid of Treliving. It'd be a really short turnaround on his 10 years as GM.
If Trey Living goes, so does Shanahan. Because he's Shanahan's guy. Shanahan's third or fourth guy, in fact. Okay, so the Boston Bruins in Florida. Boston, the same position the Leafs were against Boston. They find themselves in that same position against Florida. They're at 3-2. Now they want to win again so they can go to Florida to play a seventh and deciding game.
I was really hoping that Florida would have been able to close it out, but Jeremy Swayman just happens to be absolutely on fire right now. He's made 28 saves. McAvoy added to the list of disputed goals with the go-ahead marker to make it 2-1. And the Bruins staved off elimination by beating the Panthers in Game 5 of their second-round NHL playoff series Tuesday. Swayman absolutely stoned Stam Reinhart from close range with about 8 seconds left. And the Bruins left Florida as winners. So, Jim Montgomery says we have a goaltender that's extremely confident. His swagger gives confidence to the rest of the team. Morgan Geekie, who managed to score early on the Leafs, also managed to pot one as well. The Bruins so far are 2-0 in elimination games this season. So we'll have to see how it goes here. Tkachuk seemed almost invisible. Bobrovsky was pulled with 3 minutes and 5 seconds left. I'm not sure what's happened here. At first, I thought that the Leafs had broken the Bruins with the way they played in the first couple of games. Now I'm not so sure.
Well, it's never as simple as the team wins a game. There's always in the playoffs a game within the game. And in fact, there's probably a game within the game within the game when it comes to the playoffs, right? It's all about, can you hit the magic button when it matters? And the Bruins have done it with their goaltending and key goals. Florida has been unable to get untracked at key times. And, it can change if we know nothing else about the playoffs forever. Things can change on a dime, Aaron. They can change on a dime, and nothing will stop. The NHL has a better record for teams coming back from 3-0, right, than any other sport. And 3-1 is much easier than 3-0. So we've got another team in Colorado that Makar and company won to make it 3-2. It's
This
in
is
game.
true. And this is that was a series that had been going back and forth with blowout after blowout on alternate sides. Makar got 2. The Avalanche beat the Stars 5-3. So they're now, I believe they're now heading back to Colorado for Game 6. So it's one of those situations where they seem to be trying to make it as interesting as possible, and I don't know if my blood pressure can take it.
It's working.
Well, for sure.
And then you've got what I just talked about. Carolina started no wins to 3 losses. They won 2 in a row against the Rangers. The Rangers looked indestructible, to my point that I said earlier. Things can just go 180 degrees, baby, 180 degrees. And now Carolina finds themselves on the verge of tying the series, Aaron.
And again, this is one of those cases where it seems like the President's Trophy curse is kind of catching up. If memory serves, weren't the Rangers the number 1 team in the NHL come the end of the season?
Oh yeah, they were.
So it's one of those. Well, you won the President's Trophy, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the whole shebang.
Absolutely, and Carolina has knocked on the door for so long. I mean, the last 5 years, I think they've probably had the best playoff performances. They've gone as far as anybody anyway without winning the cup. That is. Right. So they've been a pretty good team. And Leaf fans have been eyeing, Robbie. They've been eyeing him as their coach. And it's getting ruined. The Leafs are sitting there going, well, we were hoping to interview with him, but his team keeps winning. And the fact that they do this, just like the Leafs, right? We thought, anyway, turn the playoff series into an interesting one instead of a walkover like was happening with Boston. But it didn't save the coach. It didn't, whether it saves Rob the Bod, I don't know if it'll save him. But I'll tell you something. He has been given a lot of credit for how that team plays, Aaron. And I think he deserves it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, even going back to the behaviors and the habits that we saw him trying to force the team into during the lockdown season. When we started giving him the nickname Rod the Bod. He's been consistent in trying to get his message across and getting his team to play in a certain way. And I think we're finally starting to see that pay off here, because little by little, the Carolina Hurricanes have been chipping away at the veneer that is the New York Rangers to claw their way back into this series. So,
and this is the next series we're talking about, Edmonton and Vancouver. This has been the only one that's been toe to toe, if you know what I'm saying, compared to what we've been talking about the past 3-4 series.
100%. The thinking was that the Oilers were absolutely going to run away with it.
Oh,
Obviously that didn't prove to be true. There were a few anxious moments on the part of the Oilers after the Canucks managed to take the lead in the series. Good to see former Toronto Marlies and Maple Leafs goaltender Calvin Pickard get some time.
Yeah.
Too. Interesting side note: Artur Shilovs actually played against Calvin Pickard in the AHL playoffs last year, so they're not entirely unfamiliar with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
But playing in the A, this is one of those series that has been back and forth and has been absolutely dynamite to watch. Even though it's killing my sleep pattern, staying up to 1 o'clock in the morning to catch them. This has been, I think, bar none, the best series so far this playoffs.
This is what the playoffs are all about, right? And when it comes to goaltenders, and we've talked about this, and I've said it all along. If you remember, I've always said goaltenders are like the jar. Can you capture lightning in the jar? And you're going to see that from time to time. History is littered with goaltenders that go into the playoffs with people going, who's Ken Dryden? Who's Rogie Vachon? Who's now his name just eluded me. The Penguin that came to the Leafs in goal.
Matt Murray?
Yeah, Matt Murray won the cup once before he was a rookie, and I emphasize this. He won before he was a rookie, and then he won as a rookie. So nothing says who's he more than that kind of situation. And so goaltending is very fluctuating, and that's it's all part of the game. It's all what matters. I mean, Edmonton right now sits with an opportunity to win this series because of a choice that they made. And did you hear the people are asking who's going to start?
Wow, as any good player, as any good coach would do, obviously they're keeping that decision close to the vest.
Well, remember against Toronto, Boston started by alternating. That ended.
Yeah, pretty clearly that ended. That ended
right?
Very, very quickly.
Yeah, so there's goodness knows what they're going to do. So Edmonton playing, I agree that they were the favorite. I would have picked them as a favorite because they have been through much more in recent years than Vancouver. I look at it as though, rightly or wrongly, anybody can argue them. They're playing with house money, Aaron, in my opinion. Going into this season, they're playing into house money. Now, they've spent a whole year building up their reputation and their confidence and the proof of their ability and their team structure. So, I'm not saying that, full throated, but it's there, right? That this is a team that's, basically hitting their stride for the first time. And by first time, I mean their first season of actual success. And they went from nothing to something, though, let me tell you.
Oh, everybody had basically written them off after the start of the season that they had, and to find themselves battling all the way back the way that they did, absolutely brilliant. I don't know if you actually caught the finish of this game, but Vancouver scored to tie it up at 2-2, and then just a matter of seconds later, all of a sudden it was going Edmonton's way, and it's one of those your heart breaks for Artur Shilovs. It really does, because the kid played a dynamite game.
Was this a game or the game before where there was the goal scored that they didn't call a goal?
It was the game before.
It was the game before, right? Where you could see the web of the glove with the puck inside behind the line of behind the two posts from the view of the camera. Oh yeah.
Had he had white webbing in the glove, it might have been clearer, but it didn't appear to me to be over the line.
No,
and obviously,
I agreed with you until I saw this other view that they showed later, that it came later after the call, that it wasn't available for some reason, wasn't available to the refs when they were making the original call, or Toronto.
It's kind
So,
of like Sam Bennett's punch to Brad Marchand's face, which we didn't really see until after the deadline had passed for him to actually be suspended.
well,
Yeah, maybe.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this is well, it is what it is, right? Speaking of shenanigans, no, Arizona, Connor Ingram wins the Masterton Trophy for perseverance and dedication to hockey.
This is a well-deserved trophy for Connor Ingram. Um, he was battling undiagnosed OCD that led him to drink to cope with his anxiety. He has turned into a full-time NHL player and has won the Bill Masterson Memorial Trophy for perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to hockey. Um, Ingram had a breakout performance for the Arizona Coyotes this past season, a few years removed from seeking and receiving help from the NHLPA Player Assistance Program, which is run jointly by the league and union and has been in the headlines lately for other participants, notably Valeri Nichushkin. Um, now, he was saying, you don't do these things for awards. I sought help through the NHLPA Player Assistance Program to get my life back together. The fact that you get recognized for it is something that a lot of people who put their life back together don't necessarily get. The other finalists were Calgary's Oliver Killington, who stepped away for more than a year and a half for mental health reasons, and Carolina's Frederick Anderson, who missed several months this season while dealing with blood clotting issues. Um, it's nice to see Connor get the recognition for what he was doing. Um, Glad to see that he's actually managed to make a full-time NHL career out of it, and that he managed to actually get the help he needs. This is a very important step forward, especially for a lot of professional athletes, to see success stories from stuff like this, especially when it comes to mental health. Another ones that stepped away for extended period of times would also been Jonathan Drouin and a couple others seeking the help that they need.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Canada and Canadian. Well, it's Canada's Got Talent. We have Saskatchewan's Rebecca Strong takes the prize, the $1 million prize for winning the event.
Yeah, she's an Indigenous singer from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Uh, Her performance of Adele's "Rolling in the Deep" beat out 7 other finalists in the live 2-hour finale on Tuesday night. Um, I didn't catch catch the show, but apparently she's been singing for quite a while now. But this is obviously her biggest performance yet. Um, I'm glad for her and glad to see her getting the recognition for her performance. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Let's go next. Staying in Canada, Ottawa to acquire Quebec Bridge from CN.
So the federal government says it's reached a deal with Canadian National Railway Company to acquire the historic Quebec Bridge. This is following decades of political wrangling over what to do with the 100-plus-year-old bridge. Ottawa is going to be spending $1 billion over the next 25 years to repair, repaint, and maintain the bridge, extending its life for further decades. It's a perfectly good bridge that has served for many years. There have been concerns about the long-term viability of the bridge, but analyses have shown with the right ownership and the right level of investment, it can last for decades longer. The Quebec Bridge stretches for 549 meters across the St. Lawrence River, connecting Quebec City with its south shore, and it's the longest cantilever bridge in the world. It originally opened in 1917 and was designated a National Historic Site in 95 because of its length and the fact it was the first major bridge in North America made of nickel and steel. So, under this agreement, Ottawa has paid a symbolic $1 to acquire the bridge from CN, and the rest of it is going to be them investing the remaining dollars into it. Federal Procurement Minister Jean-Yves Duclos said the province and provincial and federal governments have been debating for more than 30 years about how to ensure the longevity of the structure. This was obviously what they felt was the best way forward.
And it pays to do that. Good for them. Let's go over to chunk of space debris lands in Saskatchewan. This is hilarious.
Yeah, so Barry
He
Sawchuk.
got hurt.
Well, thank goodness nobody got hurt. But Barry Sawchuk is the name of the farmer. He's used to removing rocks and weeds, but he recently discovered a 2-meter wide, 40-kilogram heap of twisted burnt metal. He and his son were out driving around just checking on the fields when they came across the object. Thought originally it was just garbage, but there were multiple layers of charred composite fibers and webbing, which kind of made him suspect that potentially it was not. Turns out they connected it to a rocket from SpaceX that flew back in February. University of Regina astronomy professor Samantha Lawler, one of the ones who's now working with Sawchuk, noted large chunks of metal from space have recently been found in Australia and Washington state. And we mentioned this on the show. One about the size of a Motorola cell phone crashed through the roof of a house in Florida. These sort of space debris reentries are now an almost daily occurrence.
Yeah, no kidding.
Which is, something that's obviously concerning. We put enough crap into space now that we're at risk of it falling back on our heads. His intent is to actually try to sell it to raise money for his local hockey rink. So I think it's an admirable cause. Hopefully it works out for him.
Yeah, maybe SpaceX will be able to throw some money towards him.
Unlikely. Elon doesn't like paying bills.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Severe thunderstorm threat emerges over the prairies. Risk of tornadoes.
So as of about 4 o'clock this afternoon, severe thunderstorms were prompting new tornado warnings in both southern Alberta and southern Saskatchewan. Environment and Climate Change Canada has issued a tornado warning for the following areas in southern Alberta. We're talking about Hanna, Stanmore, Sheerness, Roseland, and Sunny Hook. So if you're in those areas, please try to stay safe. Additionally, we're also looking at Webb and Antelope Lakes, Carmichael, Bone Creek, Simi, and Scottsgard. So if you're out and about in those areas, folks, please try to heed your weather warnings. If the sky goes really dark or goes green, get inside and sheltered as quickly as possible. You're looking at a potential SA3 near Youngstown, not to mention Hanna and Richdale and Spondon and Scapa. So if you're out and about, just make sure you're careful.
Absolutely. Severe thunderstorm threat. I got that one. Quebec media say new bill to protect politicians and excessive harms free speech.
So there are a few Quebec newsroom leaders that are calling out a new bill. Basically, it was tabled in April by Municipal Affairs Minister André Laforêt. The legislation is aimed to protect elected officials from threats and intimidation that cause them to reasonably fear for their integrity or safety, and includes fines of between $500 and $1,500. The bill is the government's response to a wave of resignations from elected officials. A recent survey by Quebec's Union of Municipalities found that 74% of elected municipal leaders report having experienced harassment and intimidation, and that 741 people out of 8,000 had quit since the 2021 election. That's 8.5–9% of elected officials had decided to quit because people have just been tearing strips off them and threatening them. Media companies are saying that the bill is too broad and allows elected leaders to potentially silence unfavorable criticisms from citizens and journalists. But it authorizes politicians subjected to comments or actions that unduly hinder the exercise of their functions or invade their privacy to apply to the Superior Court for an injunction against the offending individuals.
Absolutely. Let's rain helps keep Fort McMurray wildfire from growing. We need a lot of that rain, man.
We really do. Fort Mac got a watery reprieve from a menacing wildfire Thursday morning from Wednesday evening. A steady rainfall and water cannons delivered basically a soaking to tinder-dry ditches. Alberta Wildfire Information Officer Christine Tucker said the blaze remained out of control, but it did not grow overnight and remained at about 200 square kilometers. 200 square kilometers, my God. The rain and cooler temperatures in much of the province this week have been helping, but unfortunately, the northern part of the province is expected to stay drier and warmer. The blaze was still just under 6 kilometers from the southwest outskirts of the community and less than 5 kilometers from the main highway south. This fire has forced 6,600 residents in 4 different neighborhoods to leave their homes. This is as of Tuesday. So thoughts and definitely concern for the individuals in Fort Mac. We're hoping that everything, stays safe for them.
Fort Nelson, BC, has some concerns.
Yeah, the Denny's restaurant in Fort St. John ran out of burgers on Tuesday. Hotels have been filled with new guests, some turning up without identification or money. Fort St. John businesses have been doing their best to welcome the influx, offering free movie nights, popcorn included, and discounted burritos. But they're heaving with evacuees, from Fort Nelson, which is about 380 kilometers north, since residents were ordered to get out Friday in the face of a fast-growing wildfire. Rob Fraser is the mayor of the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality, which includes Fort Nelson, pleaded for patience from evacuees as they settled in. Fort St. John has had to absorb about 3,500 people, dropping into a community of 25,000. Uh, the good news is the fires have actually started to turn the other way. So they are no longer burning towards the communities, but there is still danger and risk from the smoke. So, um, you know, it's a difficult situation, and the blaze is now 127 square kilometers, up from 84 earlier this week, but spread away from the town along the southern flank.
Absolutely. TTC CEO apologizes for major outage Monday, plans to open and review.
So, for those of you who were on the online too over the course of the week, Monday morning was a terrible start to the work week because between St. George and Broadview, there was no service. Because overnight maintenance workers, unfortunately, there was a hydraulic fluid spill, which led the tracks to be very slippery. And the usual thinking is, hey, well, it's just fluid. Yeah, but the trains kind of need to stop. So, because the tracks were made extra slick, it's caused a lot of issues. This is the seventh hydraulic leak in the TTC since the beginning of the year, which has led TTC CEO Rick Leary to announce a review into the concerning root causes behind these increasingly frequent outages. Um, this is a particularly galling situation for those individuals who rely on the TTC to get to work. Hopefully, they'll be able to get to the root of this and fix the issue so it doesn't continue to happen.
Absolutely. The Mirage Casino, which ushered in an era of Las Vegas Strip mega resorts in the 90s, is now closing.
Yep, it's going to be shutting its doors this summer. The July 17th closure will clear the way for major renovations and construction on the 80-acre property, which is set to reopen in 2027 as the Hard Rock Las Vegas, featuring a hotel tower in the shape of a guitar, soaring about 700 feet above the heart of the strip. This will be the second time this year that a strip casino shuttered itself. The Tropicana Las Vegas closed in April after 67 years to make room for a $1.5 billion baseball stadium, which is being planned as the future home of the relocating Oakland A's.
Ah,
So there's a lot of change going on in the landscape here. It'll be interesting to visit Vegas once all of that has been cleared up.
well, the Justice Department in the U.S. is formally moving to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug in a historic shift. This makes a big difference. It doesn't legalize pot because actually states can legalize pot, but the federal government has not as yet, but they've decriminalized it, if you will, as far as being charged with its use.
Right. The proposed rule, which is sent to the Federal Register, recognizes the medical uses of cannabis and acknowledges it has less potential for abuse than some of the nation's most dangerous
Mm.
drugs. The plan, which was approved by Attorney General Merrick Garland, would not legalize it outright, but the DEA will next take public comment on the proposal in a potentially lengthy process. If approved, it would move it away from being classified as a Schedule One drug, which is a relief because it would no longer be considered as dangerous as heroin and
Heroin,
LSD.
cocaine.
It would be relisted as a Schedule 3 substance alongside some anabolic steroids and ketamine. Now, this move comes after a recommendation from the Federal Department of Health and Human Services, which launched a review of the drug's status at the urging of President Joe Biden back in 2022. Biden also has moved to pardon thousands of people convicted federally of simple possession, which is another big step. Now, this announcement could potentially help Biden, who appears to be losing supporters in the younger demographics. But we'll have to see how all of that plays out. But certainly by moving it to a Schedule 3 as opposed to a Schedule 1 drug, you remove the threat of a felony.
Right. That's the thing. People's
Mhm.
lives can be totally ruined, with an arrest and then a conviction, and the stigmatism attached is hard to overcome for some. So, good news in that regard. And as they said, a lot of these people who were arrested for smoking weed, pardons were more than welcome. And I think that's, it's just one of those things where society sometimes the shift in thinking is a bad thing for some people, right? In this case, the shift in thinking is a good thing for some people.
For sure.
Right. So let's talk about anti-sunscreen TikTok movement is so dangerous. Dermatologist says, "Uh-oh, what ticky tack thing is going on here?"
Like Tide Pods and the Cinnamon Challenge and a whole bunch of other things that can be bad for your health. The latest TikTok trend is having social media influencers promoting the avoidance of sunscreen, claiming to cite claims about sunscreen chemicals causing cancer or potentially causing vitamin D deficiencies. Because don't you know, all of the vitamin D that you get is absorbed through your skin. And if you put on sunblock, the sun never reaches your skin. No, stop it. The anti sunscreen movement is dangerous because we know that 80 to 90% of skin cancers are caused by ultraviolet radiation,
The sun.
the sun. So, if you want to increase your odds of getting skin cancer by avoiding something else which won't give you cancer, like sunscreen, then by all means have at it, folks. You know what? Purple yourselves up. But
Let's remember the old adage of uh, you know controlling the amount of whatever you do. In excesses are no good. So you need some natural sun for a short amount of time so you don't put on the sunscreen. But when you or your children are going to be under the sun for a, a hot sun for a prolonged period, we know it's not good for you, even on the short term. Boy, oh boy, can it hurt if you don't pay attention to how long you're out in the sun or any kind of protection that you may or may not have.
well, you were a construction laborer, Frank. You knew about
Yep,
these sorts of things. You worked outdoors. There
absolutely.
there are a lot of folk that work outdoors. You look remarkably well preserved. I can only assume it's because you were smart enough to make sure that you had adequate protection when you were out on the job site.
And
Um,
wide brimmed hats.
well, there's that too, right? But there are individuals that I know from Alberta that are in their 30s that look like they're in their 60s because
Yeah, well,
they
that's
they don't wear sunscreen while they're on the job because they're convinced they're just going to sweat it off anyway, so why bother? And it's like, dude, I'm personally speaking, I'm 49. I don't look a day over 35, and that's because I take care of myself. And that includes using sunscreen. You, sir,
absolutely.
are on the verge of looking like a wallet.
Yeah, I got to tell you, you just got to be careful. You got to educate yourself. You got to understand what you're putting on your body. And yes, vitamin D is good. We learned that vitamin D, Aaron, is good from COVID. It is, vitamin D is one of the things doctors tell people my age to take. Take vitamin D supplements because that will help you in fighting that particular virus, right? So it's. I think the biggest thing that we can do is we can live and learn, right, and then confirm. You know, just because you live and you learn something, I think you got to learn and confirm. Learning alone is not good. You need to confirm. And in today's world that we live in, we get we get. I mean, we get chauffeured down, the rabbit hole very easily, or the garden path, right? We have to be careful. Educate yourself. Don't believe what Aaron and I tell you, but educate yourself and speak to your doctor. If you have a doctor that you trust me, they'll tell you what's going on.
Now, there were experiments that were done in Tenerife. in particular with participants using SPF 15 sunscreen to protect themselves while on holidays. Not only did the sunscreen protect participants from sunburn, their vitamin D levels actually improved. This showed us that even when sunscreen was used, a sufficient amount of UV radiation still reaches the skin, allowing vitamin D to be produced, but at the same time helps protect you from the deleterious effects of prolonged exposure to sunshine. It's one of those unfounded claims that people like to make about, oh, this is going to be bad for you, or oh, it's going to be carcinogenic. People have to understand that there are trade-offs to all of these sorts of things.
Absolutely.
But the important thing is to be cognizant of the fact that it is possible to protect yourself and to get everything that you need.
Yes. Why not? Why not? So a little hassle in coming on. Anyway, I also want to say congratulations to. Well, I'm hoping to hear about it soon. We're looking for a home for our Legion, and we just might have one. I'm waiting for confirmation, Aaron. And as I was coming on the air, there was a foosball table that wasn't available that became available while I was on the air after dealing with another issue. So I've been real busy here. It's I got to tell you, folks, I'm becoming knee deep or shoulder deep in starting a Legion. I got to tell you, it's an interesting prospect, and there are a lot of good people that are doing a lot of good work, and I really appreciate everything they do. Yesterday, while we were on our way to go pick up, we went to pick up a pool table and some various tables for our building when we have it, because we can't afford to buy a building. This is a new Legion. We saw a deer that couldn't have been more than a day old, Aaron, walking across the field. I've never seen one that young in person. It was amazing watching it. I couldn't tell if it was a boy or a girl. Didn't get close enough and didn't really care. So it made it across the road. We helped it get across the road, and it marched on, hopefully, to find its mother. Nature is amazing, and we see deers. You watch Bambi movies and stuff like that, but when you see a baby deer like you've never seen it before, it's amazing, Aaron, how when it's walking, how its legs are unsure. You know how you see ponies when they're born? This is what I saw up close, just a few feet away. It was amazing.
That is awesome.
Yep.
Nature is absolutely fantastic.
Totally.
Yeah, we did have a comment from Rapacious Visage, who was visiting us off Twitch. Thank you very much for your comment. I do appreciate the fact that yes, there are some chemicals in sunscreen that could potentially cause cancer. Many of these chemicals are considered hormone disruptors. That's true. But if you're choosing a physical sunscreen, like something that contains zinc or titanium, over spraying on a chemical sunscreen, that will make things a little bit better for you. Not only that, fashionable sun hats are awesome. You can also buy clothing with sunblock and sun protection factors built in. I myself, when I go to races, do wear a SPF 50 T-shirt underneath my safety gear, on top of everything else that I do. So, yes, I can appreciate that there are some ingredients in these sunscreens that are potential carcinogens, but like with a lot of things, almost everything can be a carcinogen if you take enough of it or put enough of it on.
Again,
but I do want to thank you for
moderate.
reaching out with that, Rapacious Visage. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I wear a bucket hat.
Yeah.
Which I find protect. One of the weaknesses, the areas that concern me are my nose, because I have a Roman nose, which roams all over my face, and of course I have my ears, and those two, they get burnt easily. And for the first time when I went on vacation, Aaron, for the first time, I burnt my lips.
Oh goodness, I've done that. It sucks. It's
Oh
not a lot
man,
of
does
fun.
it ever? Oh
Eating
man,
is
does it ever?
terrible.
Yeah, so listen, folks, we're not here to preach to you. We're giving you information to the best of our knowledge. That doesn't mean it's perfect. That doesn't mean you have to take it. But what you can do is think about what you're doing. And as I said from the beginning, learn, confirm. Learn, confirm. Don't sit at learn, confirm. Because, there's a lot of diabolical people out there who just enjoy doing damage to people that they don't even know. That's how sick people are, some people.
Well, and again, your best bet is to go with something physical to block the sun. If that means putting a white stripe on your nose with zinc oxide, please do that. I myself am a fan of the Tilly hat. The Tilly hat that I have at home is SPF at least 50, and it's a wide brim. So it's all these steps are something that you can do to help yourself.
Yeah, Aaron looks cool with his Tilly hat on.
It's
I've
funny.
seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it.
It's really
I've
funny.
seen it. I have. I have seen it.
The good news is it's
Can't
staying on my
unsee
head.
it. I gotta be honest, I can't unsee it. I can't unsee it. Thanks for doing this, Aaron. Really appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate it, Frank. Unfortunately, I won't be here tomorrow, dear viewers. So if you are trying to come back, please be aware that I won't be here. I will be at the Coca-Cola Coliseum for Game 5 between Toronto and Minnesota in the PWHL semifinals.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I lost my computer. I can't see you.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, I do want to thank all of our viewers for taking the time to come to come and visit with us today. Uh, if you have the opportunity, visit Candid Frank Stanisci on YouTube, where you can find all of our shows archived there. You got anything else, Frank?
Well, yeah. You know what? Enjoy your weekend. I'm telling you, you have to enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your weekend. And thank you for watching the Spanglish World Radio Network. See you again soon.